The House has been shut down for the better part of a week after 9 Republican members voted with Democrats against Speaker Johnson and party leadership.
So this all started when Florida Representative Paulina Luna put together a petition that would force a vote on a new House rule to allow proxy voting for new parents in Congress. Put more simply, this rule would essentially allow someone else to vote on bills and issues in the House in place of a sitting member of Congress.
Speaker Johnson slammed the Republican defectors earlier this week, arguing that proxy voting is unconstitutional. Take a listen.
96% of House Republicans voted against proxy voting because they believe it's unconstitutional and they agree that it would open a Pandora's box. And so that's what we just saw. It's very unfortunate. We'll regroup and come back and we'll have to do this again.
Meantime, Congresswoman Paulina Luna, a new mother herself, argues that it supports family values and allows parents in Congress to do their job while taking care of their newborns.
And proxy voting isn't unprecedented. During the pandemic, then Speaker Nancy Pelosi instituted something broadly similar to keep Congress running while social distancing requirements were in place. So, does this support families or is it unconstitutional? Amber, one of the reasons I enjoy our conversations is that I'm often very curious to know what you think, especially when it's a topic I don't have a massively strong view on myself.
Sure.
You come down and
I am against proxy voting.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. First of all, I am quite in line with the argument that it's unconstitutional. The quorum clause in the United States Constitution indicates that there has to be a quorum of members actually present in the body in order for laws to be passed, for business to be done. And I think the idea that the founders envisioned some case where people were able to write letters back at that time to their other members in the House, and in this case, call them on the phone to vote on their behalf, would have been outrageous to them. It was obviously hard to travel in those days. It took a long time, and yet somehow everybody was still able to make it in person to cast their votes. And one of the manipulations that's been happening from some of these Republicans and then the Democrats is the idea that it's pro-family. I mean, first of all, I would point out that you can have your newborn on the House floor. You can be in person with your baby and cast your vote, and that's perfectly acceptable. But the idea that we're supposed to get rid of this quorum clause, not expect you to show up for work because of a decision you made in terms of family rearing, I think is an indication that maybe you shouldn't have run for Congress if that was what you intended on doing. I know I'm probably surprising you right now, but I think it is the reality.
Yeah.
And we talked about this some last week as well in terms of women making choices about family and child rearing, that if your choice is between you want to stay home and raise your baby or you want to take it in and cast your vote on the House floor with your baby, he or she, little bundle of joy, I just, it's odd to me that the argument is that they should get to have it both ways.
I mean, I'll have to take the other side of the argument just for entertainment's sake here.
Sure.
As I say, it's not an issue that keeps me awake much at night, but unlike newborn babies, when those are around. But the thing here is that it doesn't seem to me that much of a stretch when we're in a very different world than the founders envisioned, and there are all kinds of provisions in the workplace generally for people who are new parents, be that mothers or fathers. And so the Paulina Luna provision, as I understand it, was for 12 weeks. You could have up to 12 weeks you could nominate a proxy. Then at the end of that 12-week period, that was done. It doesn't seem outrageous to me to think, A, there's a secure way to do that, so there's no suggestion of, somebody impersonating you or casting fake votes. And it doesn't really seem a massive infringement on it. Whose rights are hurt by it, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the constitutional standpoint, I would say that there's more to being a member of Congress than just hopping on Zoom and saying aye or nay to a piece of legislation, right? There's debates that are going on the House floor. There's amendment processes. There's an entire day usually of people having to be there and engage with their counterparts in Congress before they cast that vote. And so it just seems like they're shirking a lot of that responsibility. And when you run for Congress, you make a pledge on behalf of the American people that you're going to represent them in your full capacity that you can. And so deciding to sit at home, for good reason, mind you, to raise your kids, seems like a dereliction of that oath that you took. And I would also say, you know, the first time that this proxy voting was implemented was during the pandemic. This was meant to be an extraordinary circumstance where people literally could not or were not supposed to gather in person for fear of spreading a very contagious virus.
Sure.
And to now extend that for it to become a normalcy, I think sets a very bad precedent.
I do take the thin end of the wedge argument. Like I was saying about Luna's case, that it's like, at the moment it's 12 weeks. I get the conservative or counter argument, which is to say, well, once it's 12 weeks, you've conceded the principle, and then people say 20 weeks and 24 weeks, and then it becomes you're entitled to your first year off. I guess I'm just less hostile than you to the idea of making an accommodation for people so that they can in fact do both to a degree, that they can take care of a newborn at home and still attend to the basics of being a member of Congress. Because it seems to me that if you deny that choice, then you actually take those members who do decide to stay home with a newborn child out entirely of the duty to represent their constituents. They have made that decision because it's personally vital to them. There seems to me to be a way to respect that choice and not bar them or eliminate them from doing the basics to continue representing their constituents.
I suppose the sticking point for me is you mentioned the duty to represent. And I think fundamentally you're not really doing that duty if you're not willing to show up and engage in the full process of lawmaking. And even if they weren't serving as a member of Congress, they still have the right to vote. They can put someone in there who represents their values or shares their values. Yeah, it's just hard for me to buy the argument that when you're at home taking care of a newborn, you're fully engaged in your duties as a member of Congress.
Do you think this issue has split Republicans or conservatives? Like, is there a big division of opinion on this, in your opinion, in conservative circles?
I just in the chatter that I've heard, most people land where I'm at, but obviously there's enough on the conservative Republican side to go against Speaker Johnson. I mean, I think there's also two sort of interesting things going on here at the same time, which is that you have these minority members of the Republican Party saying that it's a pro-family issue, and the Democrats are basically lobbying for it because it's an extension of the pandemic policies that they voted for back in 2020.
Well, I think they're framing it at least as a pro-family policy.
I bet they are.
Oh, Amber, cynicism about Democrats in this joke. We have a lot more topics to talk about on Rising right after this. Stay with us.